All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cortez Hustle Show. Yet again, I'm sitting here with my special guest, Miss LaTanya DeLoach, and we're talking about credit, man, and the difference between credit and debt, good credit versus or good debt versus bad debt. We're talking about assets and liabilities. And before we get into the asset and liability piece, Coach DeLoach, you've been talking a lot about this FICO 10 thing coming down the pike, and I'll be honest, I don't know what it is, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners don't either. So, talk to us a little bit about what FICO 10 is and what we need to be bracing ourselves for.
Okay, a lot of people don't know that there are various types or various numbers of credit scores. So, for example, if you want to get approved for a mortgage, your FICO score, which is abbreviated for Fair Isaac Corporation,
Mhm.
Fair Isaac, he's the founder of the algorithm to give banks and lenders some type of profile of you, makeup of you to determine if you are or are not credit worthiness, right?
Mhm.
So if you want a mortgage, for example, if you want to be a home buyer, your FICO 3, 4, or 5 score may be viewed.
Mhm.
If you want to get approved for a credit card, your FICO 8 score or 9 score will be pulled or will be determined to analyze if you're, credit worthy. So if you want your true FICO score, it's a website that's myfico.com.
Okay.
You can go to myfico.com. That's the only score that the banks and lenders use. And so a lot of times when people are showing screenshots or social media of Credit Karma scores, those are called Vantage scores. If you want to monitor your credit, if you want to know where you stand with just Equifax and TransUnion, those are good tools for those two credit bureaus. But you also know that there are 3 credit bureaus or credit agencies. Many people know them by bureaus, but they are really agencies. Bureaus give you the concept that it's federal government, but the credit agencies is just big business. They're just big businesses, and they make money off selling billions. They make billions and billions of dollars really from selling bad credit, right? So it's more lucrative for them to have consumers with bad credit versus good credit, because bad credit sells, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the first thing people have to understand. It was a myth out that FICO 9 was never used into play, but that's not true. You have Wells Fargo, you have Navy Federal, you have a lot of big banks and credit unions that use the FICO 9 model to determine if you get approved for maybe a bank credit card in those situations. So what FICO 10 is going to do, Cortez, is going to look at now your 2-year credit history.
Mhm.
Previously, as of today's date, the 28th of May, FICO 8 and 9 is most widely used for credit cards or vehicle loans, right?
Mhm.
And it can look at a 30-day snapshot of your current credit score. So you have a lot of people, a lot of businesses on social media, mainly the YouTube platform, that sold things like AU trade lines, that they are not selling those anymore. And AU trade lines is just simply authorized user when someone with good credit card paying history and a low credit card balance adds someone that they know or don't know. It could be a family member or non-family member. Usually it's a non-family member with a high price or fee from the hundreds to the thousands of dollars to temporarily add you, and now you are a recipient of their good credit history for maybe 30 days.
Right.
And then it was this other thing that's called a credit sweep. Many people was falsifying information that they were victims of identity theft. And when the credit agencies would receive this information, immediately they will hide the negative items, because you are claiming that these accounts were not created by me. It was a result of my stolen identity.
Mhm.
After an investigation, right, 9 times out of 10, they found out these are your accounts. You are the person that made these transactions, and it is valid. But during that 30-day window, it would temporarily be removed from the consumer's credit report during the investigation. So sometimes that consumer would go out at that point and try to get approved for that vehicle, approved for that credit card, but the negative items would reappear, right? If the investigation was false. FICO 10 is going to end all of that. FICO 10 is now saying or stating, we are not looking at your 30-day snapshot. We are not even going to look at your 60-day snapshot. We're going to look at your 2-year history. So within the 30 to 60 days, if some items were removed or you was just added as an authorized user to artificially increase your credit score, then they're going to be able to determine it, right? Wow. So those are 2 things that FICO 10 is going to do and implement. The third thing that FICO 10 is going to do is going to weigh more heavily on all debts reporting on your credit report. Under the current model, it will only weigh in more heavily if you had high credit card debt. So for example, if you had a $5,000 credit card and it was maxed out at $4,900, that would decrease your credit score because you have a maxed out credit card versus a 6-figure student loan or a $30,000 vehicle loan reporting on your credit score. So you have 2 different types of debts that's reporting on your credit score. One is revolving debt, which is credit cards, because that money revolves, meaning that when you pay it down or pay it off, you can reuse it. Again, you can pull out. But then you have installment debts that are fixed accounts, and you have a fixed payment, whether it's your rent, your mortgage, your vehicles, your student loans. Now it's going to look at your overall debt ratio, because there are some people that have 6-figure student loans, but they will yet approve them for mortgages. FICO 10 is going to rechange that. It's going to look how aggressively you are paying down all of your debts and not just your credit card debt. And how much debt do you carry from month to month to month, right?
That's going to hurt a lot of people,
It
because we
is.
know people are pushing forward those student loans and they're making the minimum payments on the student loans, in which case the balances are not decreasing at all. So you're saying that because they're going to be able to look at that and say, yeah, you a minimum payment person. We ain't gonna keep extending you credit because you plan on
Right.
dying in debt. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
right.
That's amazing. So real quick,
Yeah.
before we go to another break, I want you to also talk about the correlation or the connection, because I know you are also good at establishing business credit. And what's the correlation between personal credit and business credit? Is there a reason that we should focus on personal to get business, or should we be doing both, establishing separate business credit from our person as well as still working on personal credit?
I think you should do both. Honestly, Cortez, in the Black and Brown community, getting approved for either business credit cards, which I feel like is the first stepping stone, and onto business loans is what's keeping us economically suppressed, right? You can have Asians that can come into the United States. They can get approved. They open up their businesses, usually in our communities. You have other races that can get approved for business credit to do business in our communities versus the Black and Brown community. And oftentimes that's a result of us not having our personal credit intact for business credit worthiness and approval.
Gotcha.
Right.
So we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper, because I know you know some things that a person